Welcome to Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. My name is Mompoloki Lerumo Mogobe. Our objective is to enthuse, inspire, energize, and empower entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs of all stripes here in BW and beyond. We do so by inviting these entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs into our makeshift studio. Sometimes we call them to the restaurant, sometimes we go to our studio, and we ask them to share their experiential knowledge, their experiences and their expertise. And we ask them as many questions as we can, aimed at empowering you also as a viewer. Hello dear viewer and listener, my name is Mompoloki Mogobe. I welcome you yet again as always to another invigorating, exciting, surprising episode of Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. I'm with a doctor, Dr. Bai. You'll understand why I say it's exciting in a moment. But I'm asking you the usual favor of please subscribe. Please just strike that subscribe button and like whatever it is we have, and make sure that you get others to subscribe. We need all the support you can get. Dr. Bai.
Hello.
Welcome. The full name is Mphusu. What's the first name?
Boitumelo.
Boitumelo Mphusu.
Yes, sir.
Okay, just share a little bit of your background. Get them to get to know you.
Okay, well, like you said, my full name is Dr. Boitumelo Mphusu, but on the airwaves, you can call me Dr. Bay. I am known on that on radio or social media or at certain companies talking all about health. I did my pre-med at UB, went to study in China, came back, been practicing Marina hospital for 5 years, and then now I'm in private practice. I needed that slow down after COVID.
Okay. So why medicine? Why did you choose such an interesting profession?
It's actually a very interesting story why medicine. I became a doctor because as a female, your parents do the best they can to make sure you feel protected and safe. But reality is, once you pass that puberty stage and you go into this big, scary world by yourself as a young, Black, African female, it's scary. And the feeling of fear is something I really, really hated. And there was a time when we were on a plane. It was actually after 9/11. I don't know. I hope your viewers know what 9/11 was.
I think so. I think they're old enough to know.
Where straight after 9/11, we flew. We were flying to New York actually, and there was really bad turbulence. And my mom got knocked out. My little brother and sister were crying. It was really, really bad. Everyone was screaming, but there was one gentleman, and I don't know. Remember back in the days, those old doctor bags where you opened up and they had it's like they could put the whole world inside. Yeah. So this one man, he was the only calm person in the whole plane, and just started fixing people. He's like, "What do you need? Okay, here. You need a shot? Here you go. Okay, let's." He was so calm, and when I get scared, I get super quiet. I don't know how to scream. So when he saw me, he just grabbed me and he's like, "You're gonna be my assistant." That sense of calmness, steadiness, focus was what I wanted, and that's actually why I went through medicine. When I see a situation, it's a puzzle for me. I am essentially my job is to fix broken puzzles.
So this older gentleman was a doctor?
Yes, he was a doctor.
And he inspired you to become one?
Yes.
This is very, very interesting.
Yeah.
So you enrolled shortly after, as soon as you finished at school?
Yes. So I did my Form 5 at Lachai Academy. I graduated. I seemed to be very good at sciences, but my mother was so focused on me becoming an accountant, but I hated that.
Yeah.
Then I enrolled at UB, did first year BSc, and then I got my scholarship.
Tell us about the China aspect. You had to learn Chinese?
Oh my goodness.
Mandarin or Cantonese?
Mandarin.
Mandarin.
So how even the scholarships came about. So I graduated from high school 2008. That was the year of the recession. All scholarships disappeared. Remember, UB used to sponsor 65 of us at a time. And I think I was number 23 on the list, and they cut it down to 15. Hey, that broke my heart, eh? And I was supposed
Because
to go
of
to
the recession.
and I was actually originally sponsored to go do chemical engineering in Czech Republic. Thank God I did not go. But yes, and then after that, scholarships came to. I also did A levels at MAP simultaneously with my pre-med. So they gave some of the A-level program scholarships to go. I think it was China, Cuba, Russia. That's when these other countries started. That's when they actually started. And my father was like, your uncle's in China, Beijing. Why don't you just go and experiment? And yeah, the first year was extremely tough because the Chinese are super, super diligent in their studies. Playtime, that does not exist.
Do they even have an alphabet?
So
and how do you learn the language?
you learn based on the different connotations, So like one word can mean 4 things, but in different sounds. So you have to make sure, like you have to practice your characters. You have to practice them every day. Like I said, it was intensive Chinese training for 1 year, and at the end of it, I think I learned around 3,000 Chinese characters.
Do you
And
still speak fluent Chinese?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
It's just I don't practice a lot, but yeah, I can. I speak and write it. My whole med school was in Chinese.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Can you interpret for someone in Chinese?
Yeah, I can.
Oh, that
I
is-
mean, I was in the clinic in helping the Chinese. I had to learn fast.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Does that mean that you also got a chance to learn the Chinese medicine, acupuncture, and all the rest of it? Tell us about that.
So you learn you do learn their system. The school I went to was a U.S.-based university, Central South University. So it's the sister to Yale University. So our medicine was American-based. However, you did have to learn some of the, Chinese remedies. Like we did traditional Chinese, which was the hardest topic of life. But it was so good because it's what made me who I am now. Where you learn the different plants, how to grow them, what plant fixes what, the teas, they have so many teas, so you had to learn it. I remember at a kindergarten, when all the women are going on their menstrual cycle, the boss would put this brown sugar he's grown straight from the earth and just put this brown sugar in the middle of the room, and he's like, when you have pains, just drink that as a tea. And I'm like, what? But it worked. And all the women at lunchtime you see us drinking it. Yeah, so it was amazing.
Like prenatal care of sorts.
Sort of, yeah. If you have a sore throat, there was a plant, especially during winter, we were teachers, so there was a plant he would boil and we'd have to drink it for our throats before it became infectious or, So
What about acupuncture? Because that one is always mysterious.
Right? So acupuncture was something I didn't go into. I went more into chiropractic. I had way more knowledge with chiropractic, which is almost similar. Basically it's just isolating certain parts of your body to activate another part of your body. Because, everything in your body is connected.
Yeah.
So you just need to know what is connected to what. For example, you find acupuncture when you're putting the needles in your back, you're trying to relax your fascia. That's just a layer in your skin, so that way you're not as tense. It's just that relaxation.
Okay.
Or you're trying to activate a nerve that, sometimes some people can have stiff necks, and then you're just trying to activate that nerve to relax so that way your neck can now be calm. So, yeah.
All right. You came back to Botswana when? And, tell us about your experience at Marina.
Oh, what an experience. I graduated, actually came back in 2016 to actually do my last year of med school in Botswana. At the end of the day, it's US based.
Is that QKJ, Boitumelo Mphusu Referral Hospital? I mean, what is it called? Teaching hospital?
Yes, the UB teaching hospital at that time.
Yes.
But that hospital wasn't built by the time I was done.
Oh, I see.
It was still in the process. It hadn't opened, I even think.
Yeah.
But when I came back, I made sure that I did my 5th year with the students in Botswana because the system in China is completely different from what we practice here in Africa. We are more English based. We follow the British system. I was following the American system, which is medicine is medicine, but they have their different ways. And I knew if I came back, I was going to struggle. So I made sure I came here 2016, did my 5th year. 2017 came back as an intern in Marina, and it was difficult. It was very, very difficult.
What?
Because one, I spoke Chinese, so medical English was difficult to remember all the time because Chinese was the first thing that was in my head. The Chinese technology is high tech. So if someone's coming with a cough, you automatically take them for a CT scan. I remember telling my boss, okay, no, he needs a CT scan. I remember he looked at me and laughed. He's like, hey, Lamma, you're in Africa, wake up. Use your senses. You need to use all 5 senses of yours needs to be activated. That's going to make you a better doctor than relying on machine. And I had to completely change my way of thinking. So I'm very, very, very happy I came home because my senses are amazing now. Yes. Okay. So Marina was challenging, but it was amazing. It was.
You say you spent how many years there?
5 years. So I did 3.
Which section was it? Emergency or?
So I did maternity for 4 years, and then when COVID happened, we all kind of got reshuffled. And because of my surgical skills and my skills in machinery, again, just because of China, they took me to emergency, and then we had to...
So what is actually your specialty then?
I haven't specialized yet, you know.
You're still a GP?
I'm still a GP. So I remember my boss in Obs and Gynae wanted me to become an obstetrician. I don't mind doing that. I just didn't like the gynae part. So, and you can't separate the two, because I love
What's wrong with the gynae part?
I feel in our society right now, not even our society, the world, the solution for a lot of gynecological problems is take out the uterus or drug you up with hormones. You know, yes, I can agree to a certain extent, but that shouldn't be the solution for everything. There needs to be better solutions. So it does get a bit taxing sometimes. Emergency is something I wanted to also specialize in. But I don't see myself at 40 years old still pulling out knives from people and oh my goodness.
All that blood.
Imagine, what's my future husband going to say? No.
Okay. All right. So, any plans to specialize?
Yes, but when the time is right. Like I told you.
Which area?
Wherever the spirit, Morana says, let's go.
But Morana will help you with what you've planned, what you want. That's the part you have to do.
No, and it will come. Like I make sure that I don't rush into it, because a lot of doctors, we rush. Make sure we specialize and then become professors by the time we're 40. And then by the time they are professors or specialists, they're upset. They're not happy. There's a study that shows majority of doctors are actually depressed. And I don't want to fall into that category, because I could easily go there. And after COVID, it really showed me, there's certain aspects of it that you need to be careful. Is this what you want to see for the rest of your year? Because none of us signed up to be soldiers like that. But it happened. And what if it happens again? Are you ready? And what about if it happens again, but it's even longer now? Because it's eased up a little bit, but there's still that trauma. When you see the wallpaper and you enter the hospital, there's that trauma, because you remember that patient at that corner and what happened. Can your mental health still hold that? Okay. So that's why I went to private, to make sure that I find myself. Because by the time 2 years was done...
When did you go private? When did you go private?
I went in April.
This year?
Yeah, this year, April.
So you're newly...
Newly in the private sector world.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And how has it been?
Interesting. Hey, it's like another world on its own.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. But it's, I love the people I meet. You meet all sorts of people, especially at the practice I work at. We assist pre-departures of refugees.
One is that?
I work at Dr. John Prison Clinic. Yes. So we work with people.
Refugees?
Yeah.
Tell
we
me
help
about
with
that.
pre-departures. So, there's a certain company, IOM, that deals with the refugees. And it's one of those things, depending on your background, what has happened.
You have a lot of refugees here in Botswana?
Yes.
Oh.
And you see, these are things, even
From
in Marina.
Somalia, is it?
From everywhere. Because we even get them in Marina when they come, especially because I was in maternity. They would send their ladies.
Political refugees?
Yo.
Or economic refugees?
A bit of both, because we saw everything. Yeah, so in Marina they're there, but where I'm working at, a lot of them do come and they'll say, no, I'm going to Canada. We need to screen them, make sure they're healthy enough, make sure they're not ill, make sure whatever pre-existing conditions they have, they're able to handle it wherever they're going to go. Yeah, so it's pretty amazing. So that's something new to me. Now I'm preparing people for actual travels, but in Marina was delivery or, really quick, fast-paced stuff. This time round, I have way more time to talk health educate people. I love teaching. So I get to educate people. We get to talk supplements. We get to talk diet. We get to talk family planning. We get to talk to our young kids who are struggling to talk about life or whatever body changes they're going through. Now I have the time because maybe I see 30, 40 patients a day, but in Marina I was hitting 100 sometimes.
Ooh, that's ridiculous.
Imagine, you'll see like 60 pregnant women, imagine, and you have to screen them. And it's fast. It's like, okay, sharp, side, go, next.
Is
and
that really proper? That's not right.
And it's not right, but you have women coming from all over the country to us.
Because the referral hospital.
It's a referral hospital. There's already shortage of doctors, not everything. So you have to make sure that everyone is screened and seen, so that way you're not waiting 2 weeks and then an emergency. You end up becoming a low-risk patient to an emergency case. You'll be angry at me because I wasn't fast enough.
Okay,
so
let's talk about Dr. Bai.
Yes.
Who is that? How did that come about?
Dr. Bay, my baby.
Oh, it's Bay,
yes.
not Bai.
Yes,
Okay.
it's Bay. So Dr. Bay started in 2018. How it started actually was I had a health scare. You know, when you're in a high intensity job, you totally can relate to me, but you're a man. Women have to fight harder to keep up, you know, and as an intern coming from outside, you know, I am competitive, so I was constantly working. I'd be that intern saying, no, I'll stay behind and look after the patient, even though I just finished a 20-hour shift. That high intensity work pace, you don't have time to really look at your body because all you're thinking is just keep up and make sure the specialists like you and you figure out what's the next move. At the same time, I danced with Mopato Dance Theatre. I started with them when I was 15 years old. So that year we were preparing to go to Broadway in New York City to dance Pula. So imagine doing a 12-hour shift, then I'm rushing to Mopato to go dance. I didn't have time to look at my body. It was keep up because, again, these people were dancing full-time and I had to do part-time but then still keep up with their full-time schedule as well
Otherwise
as be a
you're
doctor.
out of tune,
Exactly.
so to speak. Yeah.
So during that time, what started happening was my cycle changed, and I didn't notice. I think
Menstrual cycle.
Yeah, my menstrual cycle. So I think I started bleeding for like almost 60 days, 2 months. Yeah, almost two and a half
Don't
months.
tell me non-stop.
Non-stop. But you see, I didn't realize
The
that.
woman with the issue of blood.
Huh?
Like the woman with the issue of blood in the Bible.
Imagine, that was really me. But you see, because I was so focused at work, I didn't, or my life at that time, I didn't notice that I had bled for more than 30 days. And it was auntie actually who went to my mom and she's like, Mom Mphusu, I'm packing pads every single day for the past 2 months. Your daughter's been bleeding like this. And my mom, you know, had to sit me down and I had to take a step back and say, actually, you're right, I haven't stopped bleeding. Something is now wrong. And that's when the investigation started. And I actually nearly lost my life because my blood level had dropped to 2. And when you're
Where is it supposed to be?
It's supposed to be anything above 10. That's what we want you to be. Ideally, 12 to 15 is what we want. I went to 2. That's death.
Yeah.
And I collapsed at GPH even. And next minute I wake up and I've had an operation to take out fibroids that have grown on my uterus. And I was 23, 4 at that time. And then after that,
What causes fibroids, doctor?
that's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah, so fibroids, all of these gynecological related problems are normally caused by hormonal imbalance. Your estrogen, remember high school, estrogen, progesterone, the 2 most famous hormones in a female. Estrogen is a bit selfish. She always takes center stage and she will raise up. And that's what causes all these unwanted problems a lot of us women deal with. And with the fibroids led to PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is multiple cysts in your ovaries, which then led me to endometriosis, which is honestly the simplest way of endometriosis is like having your periods every day. Imagine being told that, and then I couldn't, and after the operation, I got paralyzed because it was just one of those complications. I had IBS, which is irritable bowel syndrome. I couldn't pass stool, and it was building up, and then the pressure was on my spine, and I couldn't walk. I couldn't dance anymore. I couldn't doctor anymore. I stopped working for a good 6 months.
This is why they say in Setswana, a doctor can never fix themselves.
You can't. And I get it, that's the problem. We want to. But like I said, Morana always has a plan for us. He needed me to sit down and really look at myself. One, to really love myself. When I'm not, I loved myself through the things I did, not myself. And when
You love the activities around you as opposed to your inner being.
Wagwan. That's what a lot of us do. We put identity in the titles we have or what we do. And I sat on my back for 3 months. I couldn't walk. I couldn't dance. I couldn't doctor. I couldn't do anything. And I'm still young.
This is at the hospital?
Yeah, this is at home. Yeah, this is at home. And now,
why at your back? Back was also hurting.
No, it was just because waist down, I couldn't move.
Yes.
Yeah, so there was just that, moment.
Just some kind of paralysis.
Yes, I had secondary paralysis because of the operation. And after that, I gave up in life. I was depressed. I lost everything when I had everything. I was going to go to New York Broadway. That was one of my biggest dreams. And now I'm not going anymore. And I trained for that for 6 months. That was my baby project. And it just went. I worked so hard.
Because the rest of the team went.
Yeah, everyone went.
You.
Exactly. They went without me, and they did an amazing job. And I just wish I could have been part of it. I couldn't doctor anymore. My interns left me when they were graduating and finishing. I still had 6 months left of my internship program. So by the time I came back, I had to restart. It was tough.
How did you turn your situation around?
So that's actually why Dr. Bay came about. Was after, I think it was 2 months, I went for counseling. I accepted what was happening.
You were able to get off the bed at that point?
Well, my mother made sure I got off the bed.
Yeah.
She made sure I didn't give up. My family was amazing, and they really supported me. And it's just baby steps. I didn't put pressure on myself, and I gave myself grace. I can't conquer everything. And now you need to figure out what's your purpose now? Because at that time I was just doing because I wanted. I didn't really have a purpose at that time. I was just doing. And, your mindset changes. I started, I feel like that's when I started a real relationship with Jesus that time. I grew up Christian, grew up Roman Catholic. In my head, I'm like, I've always been a Christian. But that time was when I started a relationship. I started being active at church. I went for therapy, aggressive therapy. I admitted that.
What do you mean aggressive therapy?
We can go to therapy and say, I go for counseling once a month, once every 3 months, once every 6 months. I was seeing my therapist every week, sometimes 2 to 3 times a week. I enrolled in a program which had leadership skills, wholeness class. Literally, I'm peeling off the onion. When you peel an onion, that was me. I was peeling the layers of an onion. So I made sure that even the traumas that I thought I was over, or you even forget, were now resurfacing. And how I reacted to those traumas was different. How I dealt with the world was different. And I honestly feel like that needed to happen, because when I saw where I was going and what my role, now I understood my role in Marina. I was that doctor. I loved sitting with my patients and talking to them. I loved hearing their stories, especially like our grandparents. They come with those cards from 1930 something, and they'll tell you how they got TB 4 times, and then they won this, and then I love their stories. I'm a storyteller.
As opposed to this instant stuff.
Exactly, and that's what everything is instant now, and we forget the human touch. That was the senses I needed to get. I finally got what I needed to do. And Dr. Bay came about like that, where I'm a storyteller and I want to teach you medicine through people's stories, and give you hope. It sucks when you get sick, but there's always a way out, And
who is Bay? Where do those names come from?
So Bay, Dr. Bay came from my brother, Nick. Shout out, Nick. Nick gave it to me when I finally graduated as a doctor and I got better. A lot of the time I kept complaining that patients don't take me seriously because they say I'm too small. But I'm here sitting on 2 years experience and they still don't take that at fact. I finished internship, but they still didn't take it seriously. He found me to be super bubbly. I always wanted to learn more. if you come to me and tell me I have a stomach ache, but I think it's this and this and this, like, patients tell us they tell us what they think they have and what they know what caused it. And most of doctors, like it or not, I love you doctors, but they can be very mean. They can be very arrogant, where they're like, what is this person saying?
They know it all.
We're supposed to. That's what we're taught and drilled in our head. We're supposed to know it all. But I'm not like that. With my incident, I listened to your story. Okay, so you think you have a stomach ache because you ate peanuts yesterday. Okay, let's investigate in that. Because, with the human body, when your mind is calm, you'll find that you'll heal yourself just because I listened to you. And most people actually go to doctors for us to hear their problems, not necessarily because they have something wrong. And I wanted to be that person they can talk to. So that's how Dr. Bay came about. He said, you know what, Bay, in my generation, Bay is like your significant other. When you're like, oh baby, this is my baby. You feel safe, you feel calm, and then baby became Bay, and then now that's actually how it came about. Like, I want to be that safe haven for you when you come to me, Dr. Bay.
Okay.
So yeah.
So you created an alter ego of sorts.
Yeah, I really did. I love that. Yes, I did.
Yeah,
I did.
And what does Dr. Bay do now? What are your main activities? So
Dr. Bay gives you free pieces of information on how, and especially more of natural online. Facebook, Instagram. You can find me on radio. I was working at Garden FM for 2 years, then moved to Gabs FM, where I was now sponsored by Beepermass. I became Beepermass's brand ambassador to give people information. If you have this, what should you do? Who should you go to? Stop going to Dr. Google, because Dr. Google complicates your life and you panic when you don't have that problem. I'm there for you. Talk to me so I can help you filter, or at least lead you in the direction you need to go to. And because of my health scare, I had to go into a lot of natural remedies. My mother, first of all. My mother's the original.
I was going to ask you about the role of alternative medicine, actually, given the fact that you trained in China as well. Yes,
and that's what I'm saying. Everything started making sense and falling into place when I used to say, God, why? Now I get why. Yes, I love to kind of consider myself more of a homeopathic, holistic doctor. I really believe God gave us everything we need on earth. You just have to find it and not always want the quick, that quick fix. Because in the long term, what's going to happen? Look at the antibiotics. Now we're becoming resistant to them. What are you going to do now? You need to live a better and healthier lifestyle. And so that's how it came about. So I do give natural remedies, I do give advice, I do give talks. Right now my big passion and where I'm kind of driving it more is reproductive health.
Just as a lawyer, I've got to ask you about the doctor-patient confidentiality and the idea of you giving advice publicly. Isn't that an ethical dilemma of sorts?
So when I give advice, I'm not there talking about your situation unless you have given me signed consent that, hey, you can sit with me and we can talk your condition and how you came over it. But majority of the time I don't do that. I really talk more generalized. If you have flu, what are flu remedies? What are 10 home remedies you can do, more like being, and then if you do, if those remedies haven't worked, what should you do next? Or if you have a kid who has, I know they love this one because I am dyslexic, so I know a lot of parents love to come to me saying, my child is dyslexic, what's the next step? What should I do? Or I think my child has ADHD or ADD, because those are things I've publicly come out and said, I have them too, and look at how great I turned out. So don't lose hope, What's the next step? That's so I kind of generalize it. I don't necessarily talk specific topics unless I'm doing like this podcast. Yeah.
Okay. What does Dr. Bay think about the following situation? Lately, there's talk of a possible 5th wave of COVID.
Right.
And the reason I'm talking about is that one of my managers calls me Monday morning, said, I can't come to work because my doctor had something my husband had something over the weekend. I'm taking my husband to a doctor. And now she comes back and says, because my husband has it, I'm getting the sniffles. I'm working from home. All of a sudden, whatever programs we had for the week have been turned upside down.
Yeah.
What's Dr. Bay's advice?
You're right. There could be a fifth wave definitely coming up. The spikes of flu are back. They're back and they're more aggressive.
And this is not exactly flu season.
That's the thing. We're out of flu season. But even within the flu season, the typical flu we had, did you notice it was hard to heal it? Corenx didn't help anymore. Corenza didn't help anymore.
Oh.
It was difficult. Our natural remedies or our less evasive remedies weren't working anymore. Now we were going straight for the big guns already. And now it's actually allergy season. Because now supposedly is it spring? Spring season is supposed to be here. But the allergy reactions are now more flu-like. And whatever you give people, it's not working. And now they're going to the hospitals. And now they're losing it's like I'm having flashbacks of when COVID first started. Because when it first started, this is how it started. And we looked and we're like, oh, my amoxicillin didn't work on you. And that's not the type of antibiotic.
Yeah.
I'm like, it didn't work. Wait, why are you losing? But your chest is clear. What's going on? That's what's happening. And what's scary now...
So it could be the fifth wave.
It could be, because it's going to the kids. The kids are now presenting with that. Kids are having persistent coughs for 2 months. Why?
What to do now?
What to do now? Because chest x-rays are clear. They're already on antibiotics. They already finished the course. But the cough is still persisting as if they're smokers. Like they have a smoker cough. And it's scary.
That could be long COVID or what?
It could be long COVID. Did they have COVID even though the COVID tests were negative? We're living in
So what's Dr. Bay's advice?
Learn. You need to understand your body. And that's one thing I'll tell with people is that one size of medicine does not fit all. When COVID came, remember when they were like, yeah, guys, malaria, anti-malarial drugs fixes COVID. Then everybody ran to the anti-malarial drugs. No, guys, chlorine fixes...
Hydroxychloroquine. That one with the long name.
Exactly.
Hydroxychloroquine.
Yeah, exactly. Or chlorine. People are drinking chlorine straight from...
That's crazy.
Or the suspicious ivermectin that FDA didn't like. Next minute they like,
that
then
one
they
worked.
don't. Who knows? I can't say.
Yeah.
You're a lawyer.
Yeah.
It's up to you. Understand your body. Know what works for you and what doesn't. The minute you start feeling unwell, guys, know it, address it, and go for help. And especially my brothers, you guys can sit at home sick for months.
Because we believe in home remedies.
Exactly.
We believe in concoctions. We shouldn't believe in them anymore.
You should, but it's not like they do them. They don't do that. They just stay at home and hope it will disappear. But unfortunately, that's my brothers, Make sure, even before you get sick, look at your diet. What are you eating? What are you putting in your body? What supplements are you taking? Or are you even taking any? I get a vitamin C, zinc was such big supplements during the heavy COVID wave. Now people are like, no, COVID is gone. I don't need to take supplements anymore. Yes, you do. It's still, COVID is not the only danger.
So is there any particular thing one should take then?
100%. Vitamin C is number one. That's my best friend. Everybody should take vitamin C. It has multiple benefits. Besides boosting your immune system, it flushes out your system. It helps with cells rejuvenation. If you've ever seen like face serums, they always have vitamin C inside. It helps with your skin, helps with your hair. It does a lot. Take your vitamin C, take your zinc for your immune system. A lot of people are now complaining about energy, especially post the vaccine. Magnesium is going to be your best friend. Magnesium is great for energy and
but that's
also
metal. That's putting metal in your body. Is magnesium not a metal?
So it depends which magnesium you're taking. The magnesium on the market is not pure magnesium. It's like I said, it's more natural magnesium, the one that your body actually needs. Yes. So back in the days, like almost 10 years ago, not 10, 10 years ago actually, when the companies were producing these supplements, that's when they weren't regulating them properly. That's why supplements was such a big thing back in the days. But now, you have active doctors like myself saying, what's in this? Why is it like this? Okay, but if we do this, what happens? So...
Okay, you have something to tell us about the reproductive system for females.
Yes.
That only Dr. Bay can tell us.
Not only Dr. Bay. It's just she's very passionate about it.
Yeah.
Reproductive system, like I told you, with my history of having fibroids to now being diagnosed with PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, to now having endometriosis stage 2, meaning I literally have my periods every single day. I had to learn my body again. I had to reintroduce myself to my own body. And understand what works with me, what doesn't work for her. I needed to understand that my gynecologist put me on so many therapies, surgeries, all of those things. And, what works for me may not work for you. However, because, COVID showed us that you can't always get your drugs passing through the border. People were stuck. They didn't have anything anymore. What were you going to do? You have to learn. And that's what happened with me. And I find like more and more, our females are struggling. Menstrual cycle is not as simple as it once was because estrogen now is taking over. I'm having 20...
Is it because of a change of diet?
Change of diet, what we're putting in our mouth. Synthetic estrogen is now more and more prominent in our body. For example, just drinking a water bottle, drinking water from a water bottle that you buy from the supermarket, that plastic has synthetic estrogen when you're drinking it every time. The cow that you're eating, what grass was the cow eating? What were they eating?
What did they feed it?
What did it feed it? What pesticide were they using on their crops so the cow could eat? There was a pesticide, I forgot the name, but it had a really bad high dose of estrogen, and you find that our cows were eating it, and then once we killed the cattle, we ate the cattle, we get the estrogen. And that's what's fighting in our body. Our natural estrogen and synthetic estrogen are fighting for space in our body. And what happens? High dose of, now we're getting the fibroids. Cysts are coming out of nowhere in 16-year-olds. Everyone now has...
I had my nephew's son, who's I think 15, getting hospitalized for alleged internal bleeding. What do you call it? Ulcers.
Yeah.
I mean, how can a 15-year-old have ulcers?
Exactly.
I couldn't understand.
And it's happening. Ulcers are there now. And it's so bad that if we don't catch it when we can, our kids will end up detesting their body. And that's why you see a lot of our youth, they don't take care of their bodies anymore. It's like they've given up. And I'm here to say, no, it's yours. You only get one. Take care of your body. And, that's why I wanted us to talk about the reproductive system, because when you start young, I mean, you can also attest to it. When you were hitting puberty, how did your parents break down puberty to you? Or did they?
If they did at all.
If they did at all. Most of our parents, I remember I was given a book and said, good luck. That's it.
Yeah.
I was given a book. I didn't understand what was happening.
I had to figure most things for myself.
And the men really struggle because boys, you don't talk about it at all. You just figure it out as you're growing up. That's and because like my brothers taught me, and I also being a doctor and also seeing their struggle and see my younger brother going through puberty, I was like, what is this? Men really go through it, but who's backing up our brothers? You guys have to figure it out for yourself. Women at least will be a bit more talkative, but as I'm saying, the things we're eating and what's happening in our society is getting worse. So you'll find when you're a teenager, you just don't care anymore. When you're in the young adulthood, 20s, 30s, you're like, what is happening? 35 and above, you're like, my body's slowing down. When you hit menopause, everybody's like, Oshapo, now you're done. No, you're not. It's another story when you hit menopause. My ladies come all the time crying to me, hot flashes, oh my goodness, libido, oh my goodness, this is happening. They took out the uterus. We forget them, but they're also still here. They're still part of our society. Okay.
We're essentially an entrepreneurship program, so we would want to touch on the entrepreneurship side, and in terms of how Dr. Bai makes Zaga and how, what the prospects. What advice would you give on the business side of medicine? Okay.
And everybody always keeps coming to me. How I manage is like this, you and I talking. I am a public speaker. I do go talk to different companies based on whatever is needed. For example, BPOMAS. BPOMAS, COVID hit the medical aids really badly. All of them really suffered. And the problem is because we were so scared, especially the youth, every second day we were at the hospital. Every second day you were claiming at the medical aid. And then now what was happening is you were eating money from your general pool, to both papa and mama who are on chronic medication, it's not easy for them to get it. It becomes more expensive. Or our chronically ill patients, our cancer patients who need chemotherapy. So I was there to tell the youth, hey, you don't need to see the doctor every second day. Figure your body out. There's remedies. Start on supplements, exercise, don't overeat. You don't need to eat mafresh every day. Why are you eating mafresh? Why are you putting 8 tablespoons of sugar in your tea every day? Why are you doing that? Why are you having 10 cups of coffee? Exactly. And by the time they reach 60, so many other problems have happened. And that's why I was brought in, BPOMAS, to be able to teach the public, guys, let's do it like this so you can reduce this. I go to companies, mental health is a big thing now. Toxic work environments is a big thing. How are females handling it? How are males handling it? Why do males feel like, there's a high rate of suicides with our brothers? Why? What's going on? What are we missing as a society? What are we missing? What are they not saying to us? People who are ashamed to tell us what's going on. They're ashamed, they don't feel safe. Women.
So how do you monetize all that? I think that's the question I'm asking you.
So that's what I'm saying. Like besides me having the clinic where you come to me, I do sell supplements. I do public speaking where companies do call me. They pay me to come and talk, teach, guide. What's the next way forward? What we're doing. Knowledge is power. And I do give out as much information as I can. But like you're saying, I do need to make that moolah.
You need to get moolah.
Yeah, and yes. And obviously, I want to grow now and take it to schools. Now I have I'm teaming up with Mighty Song and Mr. Tefopaya, director of Mighty Song. We're teaming up now to bring...
You're going back to dancing?
No, actually, we're going to schools to teach.
Okay,
to teach all about
because
this.
I remember you mentioned dancing. So you're not thinking of going back to that?
I still do it. And I make music. I am a creative. I have music out.
Tell me about that. Yeah, I'm peeling the onions
right?
now. Yeah.
Making me tell my secrets.
Yeah.
Yes, no, I make music. I love singing. I sing at church. I make my own music. I'm more into the R&B pop culture. I do rap. I love rapping.
What music have you produced?
So I have a song called Independent Queen that I want to launch. When I turned 30, it was one of those things where, you're not married, you don't have a kid. It's like I'm a disgrace to society. And I'm like, wow, guys, we just got out of Corona. I'm alive. I'm doing well. But no, for them, I'm a failure.
Yeah.
I made that song so that all women have their own race, their own pace,
Can you give us a little tune from the song?
Oh my, what?
Just a little tiny bit.
Wow.
Not all of it.
I have not released it yet, so
I know,
the time
give
will
us a little
come.
bit.
The time will come.
Whet our appetites a bit. Yeah. Please, Dr. Bay. You won't do that.
Now.
Okay.
Secrets. We all have a team, so I cannot let out little nuggets out
Okay, on
yet.
your own. Endometriosis. What on earth is that? It's a tongue twister already.
It is endometriosis. Like I said, endo means in the womb. Metriosis is like the breakdown. When you're in your menstrual cycle, your uterine wall increases. And then once you hit your cycle, the wall starts breaking down. That's how the menstrual cycle is in a nutshell.
Yes.
So endometriosis is like you have endometrial implants in your uterus that your walls are continuously breaking. Basically, it's like having your periods every single day. The pain.
That is the experience you had.
That's the experience I'm still going through now. I'm an endo warrior. I am battling with this every single day.
Is it still happening?
It's a disease that you live with every day.
I go back to the story of the woman with the issue of blood. 12 years.
Yeah, she might have had endometriosis. Who
knew? Nobody knew the term for it those days.
And it has no cure. And 1 out of 10 women have it. It is really, really bad, this disease. And if not, and it's always misdiagnosed because people don't understand.
There's no cure, but it's manageable.
You manage the symptoms.
How do you do that?
So I'll use myself. My symptoms were heavy bleeding and chronic pain. We needed to manage the bleeding, so they put me on hormones. We did so many different type of hormones. I remember even being put in menopause. Actually, that was a great time. I was happy. I didn't bleed. I didn't do anything for 2 years. I was so happy. Me and my mother actually went through it together. But obviously, I do want to bear children. So I have to prepare my body for that. So you manage it with hormones, just depending on whichever way you go, whether it's pills, whether it's injection, whether it's depot or loop. It just depends what works for you. If you're on pain, unfortunately, a lot of our sisters are chronically dependent on painkillers because it's painful, it's paralyzing.
They become addictive as well.
Exactly, very. And then you find that now it leads into depression because you're in pain every single day. So can you imagine what it does to your brain? So you manage the symptoms that you see. You know, if you're someone whose PMS is really bad, then you need to make sure you go for counseling and make sure you can identify when it's you versus when it's your endo brain. And when it is endo brain, what are your coping mechanisms after that? It's tough, but you have to get it.
What's an endo brain?
So I like
when it's sort of imaginary.
Yeah. So when you're having a panic attack or you're sad, the first thing you need to do is, okay, like right now, if Dimi starts crying right now, I start crying. Before I can even talk to anybody, I need to talk to myself. Why am I crying? What's triggered me right now? Okay, cool. I'm crying because the lighting is not good. Great. Now the lighting is not good. I figured it out. Is this Dumi crying? Or is this my hormones making me think that the lighting is making me look bad when it's really not doing any of that stuff? It's the
so
narrative
you want to
put
establish
to the
and
story.
ascertain the facts. If I was a lawyer speaking.
Exactly. Exactly. So you need to state those facts and the narrative you put to the scenario that is happening to you. So unfortunately with us women, we get sad so quickly. We put so much, an unnecessary narrative to a lot of situations instead of taking a step back and looking and figuring out what's the problem. Once you find it, you need to identify it. So something my therapist told me is when I know I'm having an episode of an endo brain, I do something called SNAP, where I stop, I take a step back, and I literally have to take breaths. If the lighting on me is not good and that's why I'm crying, how can we fix that lighting if it's really bothering me? Am I here because of how I look, or am I here because of my brain? Am I here because of what you want to know about my passion? It's not about how I look. It's about what's coming from my heart and my brain, I get. So you need to always make sure that you change the narrative to whatever you're going through. Coping mechanisms.
Yeah. I want to go back to alternative medicine in the context of Botswana. Can Dr. Bai speak of any kind of medicines that we seem to be neglecting, or any roots that we seem to be neglecting that we need to revisit?
Okay. 100%. That's actually something I'm actually working on right now. Now I have the time. Because my mom's from Lesotho, and she hates medicine. She hates it completely, so she only deals with natural plants wherever, depending on whatever she's going through. The Setswana roots right now, I'm not 100% sure. Like I said, I am learning them now. I actually have somebody teaching me, so that way when I finally come out, it would be lovely for me to actually have products to give people and say, hey, this is what can help you here if you want to go through the natural route, and also make it affordable for our people, because not everyone can afford supplements. Yes. So for now,
because after all, even modern medicines are ultimately plants.
They are.
Yeah, processed plants.
Processed plants.
And
it's processed plants and extra additives inside.
Okay. So for men, what do you think are the biggest challenges?
Our brothers, they don't talk. You guys don't talk.
Unless it's on a podcast like this.
Even on the podcast, would they even talk?
Yeah.
Our brothers don't talk, so we don't know the challenges or the pressure they're feeling. Society right now puts so much pressure on our brothers to make sure that you're making 50K when you're 25. You have to give your girlfriend allowance for the soft life, and now the pressure and the pressure and the pressure. They don't talk. They don't talk about their problems. Some know their problems, they just don't want to face it. Prostate is a thing. We don't talk about it. When I say to people, why aren't you coming for your prostate checkup? If women go for their pap smears, which is your gynae checkup once a year, why aren't you coming for your prostate checkup once a year?
Is it curable?
What?
Prostate.
It depends what is affecting it. If it's cancerous, is it benign tumors, is it just inflammation? It just depends exactly what is going on. But you can reverse it because there are prostate-related medication that can decrease the size of your prostate if it has increased in size. So yeah, it just depends what the problem is because there's multiple problems in the prostate.
Because it grows regardless of whether it's cancerous or not.
It will always grow. It will grow, and you'll find it when the first sign is, your prostate is right by your urethra where your urine passes. You'll see. You'll see that your urine will now become scanty when you're urinating, or it's painful.
Or you get up in the middle of the night a lot.
Yes, so those are the biggest signs. But you see, our brothers will live like that, and they won't say anything.
What can be changed in the culture if you could wave a magic wand? What would you do to get our brothers to open up?
To make them, you follow by what's that phrase, man? I'm losing it. What you see, you do. When you see your fathers and their fathers actually actively doing something, you follow through, you follow suit. I love our doctors now because we do have a lot of young male doctors now coming out and they're speaking. They're making it more comfortable for men to talk. They're making it more comfortable and not be ashamed of when you're sick, you're sick. Ask for help. Help, it doesn't make you weak. It just makes you human, we have people more aware in companies of mental health, and now they've actually put in like counseling services within their companies. Go to them. They're there for you. When you're seen entering the office doors, doesn't mean you're weak. It means you need help.
Yeah. All right. We had the scourge of AIDS for a long time. Have we completely turned the corner now as a country?
AIDS, it's a sensitive topic, that one. What can I say? When it first hit our country really hard, like when in the 90s, it was bad. And I remember I was very young then. All I just kept seeing was every other weekend we were going for a funeral, and I didn't understand what was happening. First it was the man, then the wife would always follow. That's how it was.
Yeah.
And when the world took note of that, and the Bill Gates and Achab and Maryland and Buhumi came and Baylor Clinic was opened, we have the best program, honestly, in the world. As Botswana, we have the best program for our AIDS program, and it's amazing. But you see, we understood that because it hit us when we were there. Our younger generation know nothing about HIV. You tell them, they're like, oh, what's that? And you're like, ma. When pregnant women come through the clinic and they're telling me they've never done HIV tests, but you're pregnant and you're about to deliver. Why don't you know this? Because no one's teaching them anymore. That necessity is not there.
We've stopped the public awareness campaign.
They're still there, but not as aggressive. Now fundings have been gone, Like I know there was something that was closing down
Gates
just
has gone
now.
back.
Gates has gone back. He's taken his money too. So it's not as aggressive. I know Maryland, Buhumi, they're really aggressive about it, but not as much anymore. So our youth don't know much about HIV. And now COVID's taken center stage. The first thing you ask at the hospital is not if you have HIV, is have you been tested for COVID or not? We forget about the AIDS. So unfortunately, because of this time, what was happening when we had that really bad time last year, July, August, that bad wave,
The Delta.
Yeah, it was Delta. A lot of our patients, so even if you passed away and you hadn't tested for COVID, we still had to come back and test you. You'll find that majority of our patients were obviously COVID positive, but also HIV positive. Now you're also sitting there like, okay, but they, no family members know, they most probably didn't know how long was the virus living in their body for, and some who do know, they don't want to talk about it. A lot of young couples now, what presents is women come with a disease called PID, which is pelvic inflammatory disease, where I'm not saying this always happens, T's and C's noted, guys. I'm not saying this always happens, but what happens is, let's say you and I were married, okay, or dating, and you go to your small house on the weekend, you're not using protection, and then you come back to me. as your girlfriend or wife. And let's say that other lady was maybe ill. She was sick of something, gonorrhea, chlamydia, who knows what it was. And you know, you guys didn't use protection. Now it's come on to you. Now the thing with men is you do have a bit of a strong immune system where those kind of diseases don't affect you as bad as women. But you've come to me, and now you've given me what that lady has had, and it affects me on my pelvis. Majority of the women will come presenting with that, and you always have to ask them how many. First of all, you have to ask them like, how many partners do you have? And then most of them will say, some will say, yes, I do have multiple. Others will say, no, I only have one. Now you have to bring the boyfriend in, and you have to tell her what's happening. You bring the boyfriend in, you ask. He'll confess there and then, because he'll start crying, thinking, oh my goodness, what's happening to me? Now you test her for HIV, she's positive now. And it's been happening a lot.
Yeah.
So I feel like
so
we
Dr.
need to
Bai's
do that.
message is what? Stop it? Just what are we to do as a society?
Use protection, first of all.
yeah, the obvious
Use
one.
protection, because it's for free, guys. It's really for free. Our government has done an amazing job for that. And, you know, self-awareness is key. Be self-aware. You guys, our youth are so lucky because they have access to things that we didn't have back in the days. You know, when you need information, you get it instantly on the phone.
Yeah.
So knowledge is power. If you don't know, ask. That's why we're here. Ask. If there's a question you want to know.
I wonder whether there's also a space for moral regeneration and moral teaching and even religious teaching on these matters.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about your projects and your new team.
So I've teamed up with Dr Mr. Dr, like I was saying. He's the director of Mighty Song. So we have teamed up because, you know, besides being my mentor and my friend and my brother, watching his struggle as a man, just him alone, I was saying to him, you can't keep this to yourself, because he's conquered it now. Share it. Teach others. Teach your other brothers. Even my story. For a while, I kept it quiet because, you know, when you share endometriosis, a lot of people will think, she can't have children, or she's that barren woman, or she just has too much. But it's not me trying to put you down, it's making you aware. And we both used our stories to team up so we can help our younger brothers and sisters, where we want to now talk to schools. He's already actually started doing that. He made what's his show called? He's an actor as well, so he made a showpiece called Morwa, which is traveling around Botswana. He's gone to SA. He actually came back from Germany.
Wow.
He's one man showing the struggles of what a boy to teenager to a man goes through. Where when you have your first wet dream, who talks to you? When your voice starts cracking, you start laughing at other boys until it happens to you. When you start having uncontrollable hair growth all over the body, you don't understand what's happening. When when you're young and...
So he takes people through all this.
And he goes really deep in it. Like I remember when I watched the show, it was deathly silent in that room because majority of us were women, but women don't understand what men really go through. And that's why I'm like, you know what, as much as I can be there to talk, you need a man to come and talk, because the men can relate to the men. I can answer the medical related questions, but that experience of the boy child, you need to come in. And my experience as the girl child, I will come in that aspect.
So how does the viewer become part of this, if at all? How do they participate in this? How do they expose themselves to these teachings?
So what we're doing now is we're going to be going to schools. We have 50 schools lined up all over to go talk, teach, present. Universities. We're going
The two of you?
Yes, the two of us. We're going to have panelists at the universities. Not just having me and him. In the universities, we kind of made it more diverse, where we'll bring in specialists and other people who are struggling, because you'd be surprised what people are going through, and the people who are willing to share their stories, especially, our influencers. They're all going through things, and some are...
Mental health is a big one.
Mental health is a very big one, and other healths as well. So, they will come in and share their story, so people don't think they're alone. And hear how they overcame it. We're also doing, we actually already started a podcast as well, where we're talking sexual reproductive health to students, to all our teenagers. You, what do you go through? How did you go through it? How did your mom break down your sexual health to you? What did dad say to you when this was happening? I thought you'll be a man, and then that was it, and he walked away. What does that mean? So we're trying to make it more relatable, and that's the project we're embarking on right now.
Okay, all right. Now, this is the time to ask me a question, but before I do, let me talk about Dr. Bai the brand,
Yes.
or Bai the brand, Dr. Mphusu, also as a brand. What does the crystal ball tell you in terms of 10, 15 years? What can we look forward to going down into the future?
Dr. Bai, Dr. Mphusu, my brand. My purpose here is to bring hope back to people and to learn and study why is it that people in this country are living up to 90, but in this country we're stopping at 50. I want to learn and I want to know and I want to share it. So in 10 years, 15 years time, I want to have been able to travel and learn different cultures' methods of what they're doing to sustain their health. What are they doing in China that we can bring here in Botswana? What are we doing in Botswana that we can also teach the Chinese? No one has one answer fits all. But if we all work together, you saw when COVID, we worked together, we got things done. The world moved as one for the first time. You know, obviously no one's perfect, but we moved. What happens when we do that? What are the people, the Amazonians are still there. They're still surviving. What is it that they're eating and using?
And our very own Basaro.
Exactly. What are we doing? So I want to be able to have that platform by God's grace and be able to travel, learn, and teach, and we unite together and help each other in our different cultures.
Wow.
So that is the goal. And obviously make sure that you know, we're not always going to be here. But what are we teaching our children's children? This
Intergenerational.
Exactly. This conversation shouldn't end with you and I.
No.
This conversation needs to continue going on and getting better and not stopping. You know, it's something my pastor always says, you know, our generation is very open to so many different things. As a Christian, it's very difficult for them to understand Christianity, but if you don't practice it and teach it, you'll find that that teaching will end with me, you know, with us, and that's not the plan. We want to continuously teach them so they continue teaching their kids and their kids and their kids. So that is what
Sounds very exciting.
I would love to do.
Time for your question.
Mr. Lawyer. Interesting. Yeah, you ask me questions just like a lawyer. Hey, this is a hot seat, but and my best friends are all lawyers actually. So they always. So when you started talking, I was like, this guy is he interrogating me? I love it.
Yeah.
I love what you're doing with the podcast. Nuggets of wisdom. You can never get enough wisdom. Tell me. It's like two-part question though, okay? When did you start this? And when you did start it, one thing like I'm learning in my 30s is I always, you know, when you're 30, you feel like you failed in life, nothing's going to work out. But they like to say life starts at 40, gets better at 50.
50 is the new 40.
Exactly.
60 is now the new 40.
Right? That's what Dad always tells me. Papa always tells me that. And, you know, I'm in this area where you have a podcast in Botswana. And a lot of people won't, you know, they'll be like, why? How? When? So I want to know when you started it and what encouraged you to continue with it.
It's funny, this is the second time I'm answering it, so I'll give you the copy and paste version. We started in August 2019.
Okay.
At the aging of my son. I had previously had a show called Meet the Overcomers on Duma FN. So this was like a natural progression of that. But there was something burning within me that we're not talking enough about entrepreneurship. We're not talking enough about our businesses. There's need for a platform because I could see, I saw myself watching international podcasts, especially on real estate. And I figured, why can't we have one in Botswana? And I had been talking about it for some time. Eventually, my son said, let's go. And then we went to Game City, we bought a camera, and then he started shooting, and then he started. If you look at some of the first episodes, you'd laugh, you'd roll on the ground, because it's really improved a lot since then. But it's more, for me, a labor of love, an effort to impact the ecosystem. We have our saying, which is to enthuse, energize, inspire, and to empower. Those are sort of like our tagline. And we really want to live that concept, because, for instance, what influenced you to come? You were influenced to come because you saw other people who had come, and you saw how impactful it could be. So I would like to imagine that you also saw yourself as being watched by other people, being able to share your message to a different platform, to a different audience, in terms of people getting to know about Dr. Bay. Bay has taken over from Dr. Mphusu now. I think Dr. Mphusu now is in the background.
It's for my father.
Yeah. So as I said, it was a labor of love, and I wanted to impact the ecosystem.
Okay.
Have I answered the question?
Yes, no, you
You're
have.
satisfied?
Yes.
Okay. Have a look at that camera as we wrap up our conversation, Dr. Mphusu, and leave the viewer with a motivational, inspiring message, a take home, as it were.
Okay. You have one life. You have one body. Learn to love your body. Learn to embrace it and learn to prosper in it. Knowledge is power. If you're in pain, come and talk to us. Ask us. We can't help you if you don't ask us. We're here to talk to you. We're here to help you. To my little girl out there, period pains where you can't walk is not normal. Bleeding for many, many days at a time is not normal. When they tell you you're crazy or ratadilo, you're not. You're not. You're not crazy. Come, let's talk about it. Let's see a way forward. Let's see how we can dance. I like to say we dance with the hormones.
Yeah.
Let's dance with your hormones, and let's love the body God has given you. It's there for you to understand it and love it, and it will. Trust me, it will prosper.
Okay,
Thank
now
you.
share with where they find you in terms of physical address and your contacts on social media.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. So you can find me at Dr. Bay, BW, on all social media platforms, and as well as me practicing at Dr. John Pridgeon Clinic, which is the same handle on all social media platforms. We are situated at Claude Showgrounds near the new Safalana on the A1. So if you do want to have a chat, you are more than welcome to come, talk, ask, and advice. I always love learning. Come advise me. Come teach me if you want to teach me.
Is Dr. Bay on Instagram?
Yes, all social media platforms. So it's Dr. Bay BW. Instagram, Facebook.
Okay.
You'll find us.
Thank you very much. You've been a wonderful
you.
guest. You did a good job.
Thank you very much
you
for
very
having
much.
me, and thank you for the invitation.
Pleasure.